Daniel Penny found not guilty in chokehold death of homeless man by Madeleine Halpert. Well, colour me confused. I didn't see that result coming 50 miles away, did you? What, are you telling me that the jury acquitted a bloke for accidentally killing someone while restraining them, even though anyone with eyeballs clearly understood the plight of the people that ride the public transport in New York City, who get accosted daily by raving lunatics, junkies, and weirdos? Are you telling me the jury acquitted the pleasant chap who intervened and who had no criminal record and has never accosted people on the subway? Is that what you're telling me? I'll tell you what it sounds like to me. It sounds like to me that the jury probably had to use the subway in New York City. Case closed. Evening, ladies and gents, how are you doing? So, anyone with eyeballs saw this staggering drunkenly over the hill 20 miles away, didn't they? An explicitly political prosecution, which nobody in the right mind thinks should have ever been pushed and ended up in a court case anyway, has ended in an acquittal for Daniel Penny. And I'll tell you what, having had to ride the subway in New York once before, well, one trip before, I've been on it more than once, and also the metro in Los Angeles, where, full disclosure, I did once see a homeless man's chopper as he was strung out on the chairs with his trousers pulled down to the point where you could see like the top third of his wanger. I did, of course, take a photo and text it to my dad and say, "Look, father, a homeless man's penis." At which point he responded, "Never ever text me again." And unfortunately, we haven't spoke since. Anyway, let's read the story. Obviously, he's been found not guilty in chokehold death of homeless man. It's very BBC, that headline, isn't it? Chokehold death of homeless man, trying to make the aggressor sound like the victim. He wasn't a homeless man, he was a violent hoodlum who was hassling innocent civilians on the subway. Let's see if they mention that pertinent fact, shall we? Former US Marine Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide for putting a homeless man in a fatal chokehold because, I'll just add a because for you there, BBC, because he was aggressively hounding passengers. Jurors deliberated for 5 days before declaring Mr. Penny not guilty beyond reasonable doubt in the death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely on a New York City train on the 1st of May 2023. The verdict comes after prosecutors agreed to drop a more serious charge of second-degree manslaughter. The move allowed the jurors to move on to consider the second lesser charge of negligent homicide. The verdict was met with loud applause in the Manhattan courtroom, and Mr. Penny appeared to smile while his attorneys hugged. Mr. Neely's father was removed from the courtroom for yelling after the verdict. Chants of "no justice, no peace" could be heard echoing from outside. "This is America. That is the sound of black pain," one person said outside the courtroom, NBC News reported. The lunatic, the degenerate deadbeat dad who didn't intervene when his son was alive, who didn't have anything to do with him, who failed miserably in raising his son because he is lazy, good for nothing, born idle, absent parent. What was he homeless for? If I had a kid and he was homeless, he wouldn't be homeless, would he? Because he'd end up living with me again. I'd look after my son. Sounds like this man is a failure as a parent, so he wants to blame anybody else to mask that fact. And he probably thinks he can get some money out of it. Like all deadbeat dads, he's not bothered about his son, but he loves a paycheck, especially one he doesn't have to work for. And then you had the militant collectivists, radical collectivists, outside the courtroom saying the obvious on Twitter. New York BLM leader Hawk Newsom calls for black vigilantes to step up in response to Daniel Penny's acquittal in front of a free and fair jury.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
I do like the hate preacher vibe that they give off, these American ones. There's always like a fat bird stood behind them, every now and then repeating words that they say. Have you noticed that? We need some vigilantes. Vigilantes. Because we're tired. We can hear him, love. He's shouting at the top of his voice in the middle of the street. It's fine. There's no need to repeat. Also, there is no us. There is no us. Killing us on the subway. Radical communist collectivists. There is no us. I guarantee Trump voters that happen to be black are entirely behind the acquittal of Mr. Penny. And radical collectivist communists that happen to be white will think this is some sort of hate crime and they'll advocate violence in the streets as a result of it. There is no us, unless you're a radical collectivist. Daniel Penny didn't do anything wrong. And Jordan Neely, well, let's look at his background, shall we? The BBC won't tell you about it, but I will. Like so many young men in America, he was placed in foster care as a youth because he had a deadbeat dad. He also had an extensive criminal record, including 42 arrests. Yes, that's 4 and 2. 42 arrests on charges including larceny, jumping the subway turnstiles, theft, and 3 unprovoked assaults on women in the subway between 2019 and 2021. 3 unprovoked assaults on women. Innocent women on the subway assaulted by that sack of shit. I thought they were all about feminism. How is it that for some reason, into a collectivist mind, someone's race trumps someone's gender, and as long as the person beating up innocent women happens to look a certain way, they'll pretend none of that happens and it doesn't matter? This was an open and shut case. He attempted to restrain a career criminal with 42 arrests on his record, who was known to beat innocent women up and sexually assault them on the subway regularly. The man should never have been prosecuted in the first place, and everybody with half a brain knows it. And as I said, that there is no us. You don't speak for any community, Mr. Radical Marxist agitator. You don't. I work with people who happen to be of different racial groups to me, and they voted for Trump, and they don't like people like Jordan Neely being chosen by people like you to represent them. Funny old thing. They don't like being represented by thugs who beat women up, or fat beardy weirdies who scream in the street about vigilantism and choking people in the street for no reason. You're a lunatic, the prosecutor was a lunatic, and nobody with half a brain thinks any of this should have ever ended up in a court in the first place. Not only do I think this chap should have been found guilty, I think we should give him a medal for services to the taxpayers, because he's saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars by taking out the trash and making sure that the police don't have to deal with these career criminals ever again. Like Dirty Harry. He did the taxpayers a solid. Well done, Daniel. Okay? But that's just what I think. That's just what I think. You could say I'm a misogynist because I think we should stop career criminals beating up women on the subway, okay? Because in Upside Down World, the person defending women from getting beaten up on the subway, he's the bad guy, he's the misogynist, and the person who is the radical feminist activist is the black man punching them in the face on the way to work. Right, that makes loads of sense, so you can suck on that. It's called logic, okay? If you disagree, please let me know in the comments down below, just so I'm aware which one of my followers would lose a pub quiz to Forrest Gump, okay? I hope you all had a good weekend, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.